And joining us right now on the Volunteer Ritapest phone line is Heather Dinich. Heather, ESPN lead reporter for the Football Bowl. The playoffs, and we are so appreciative of you coming on the air with us today. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Heather, let's talk a little bit about college football. The CFP, they're staying at 12 teams because the Big Ten and SEC could not agree on further expansion, with the SEC favoring a 16-team model and more at-large bids, and the Big Ten wanting a transition from 16 to a larger 24-team bracket with more automatic qualifiers. Heather, explain to our audience why the SEC wants more at-large bids and why the Big Ten wants more automatic qualifiers.
Well, the SEC, the 16-team model would be the conference champions and then the next, trying to think, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 11 at-large.
Right.
I'm doing my sports writer math in my head. And that's, in large part because in talking in Destin, Florida, at last year's spring meetings, one of the reasons they started to pivot away from the idea of automatic qualifiers was because they felt they could be limiting themselves, because there could be years where the SEC could have more than, let's just say, 4 teams guaranteed spots. Maybe there were years in the past where there could have been 7 teams in or more, right? So right. I think the thinking is, why put a cap on it? So there's that side of it. And the Big Ten, while it initially wanted a set amount of qualifiers, multiple sources said that in the end, in order to help push this thing across the finish line, they would have been willing to consider an all at-large field in addition to the conference champions, if that would have helped sway the SEC any. And I think that was simply a matter of, if you go to a 24-team field, you are going to have to get rid of your conference championship games. There's
right.
going to be a different look at the schedule, and that isn't something that the SEC commissioner or the presidents and chancellors in that conference were ready to commit to at this time.
Yeah, Heather, appreciate you joining the show today. Andy here. And one of your nicknames that I've discovered, I've seen a couple segments, but you've been referred to as the Queen of College Football. So I want to start with that. I want to ask you about that.
So I think that happened on one of our digital shows one night. After the Tuesday night ranking show, I hurry over to another studio and I work with Matt Sims and Scooby Magenza and Sam Ravitch, Carl Ravitch's son, and I think that's maybe where that happened.
And they had the whole get-up for you and everything. It was great.
Oh, yeah. I was just hoping they were missing the Prosecco, though. There needed to be some bubbles involved in that segment. And that was the only thing. They had the crown, they had the cape, all the things except for the bubbles. So maybe we'll work on that for next year or when the playoff expands.
Yeah, that'd be great. Right. Heather, you're a mom of 3 boys, correct?
And that's right. Yep.
So how do you really balance being one of the best college football reporters around with the demands of your family life?
I appreciate that question, as I'm at my oldest son's swim practice right now answering it. Look, it's just like any working parent, which is you have to have help. And I have a great support network. My husband's amazing. He also has a full-time job. But the reality is that you can have all of it, but you have to have some help along the way. And I think, for most working parents, especially of kids who play youth sports, we're just check riding Ubers. That's what we are,
Absolutely.
And we've got jobs on the side.
All right, Heather, in 2 years of the 12-team playoffs, we've had 22 total games played, I should say. The 4 lowest-rated games from a television standpoint are the 4 games that went head-to-head against the NFL in the first-round games on a Saturday. Granted, this past season it featured 2 Group of 5 teams, Tulane and James Madison. But the year before, it included 2 big brands, Clemson at Texas. potential advertisers are well aware of those numbers. Has Rich Clark or anyone with the CFP addressed specifically avoiding head-to-head against NFL games, and is that even possible?
Well, it's possible in certain times, right? Like, for example, coming up, I just talked to Rich Clark about the schedule that was just released, and I want to say it's the semis or the quarters. There's not going to be a New Year's Eve game
Right.
this year for that very reason, because it's on Thursday night, where that you've got that Amazon Prime game going on, right? So they specifically did not want to compete against the NFL on that time. But there are years, and as the playoffs gets bigger, which I assume it will inevitably, you're going to have that. There's no way around it in certain spots, and I think that will continue. But when they can avoid it, I think it does make sense to do it, because then you own that TV window for that sport.
Heather, once again, we're joined by Heather Dinich, ESPN senior writer and college football insider, and we're going to go ahead and call her the queen of college football here on our show. But one thing that I want to ask you, what is something about the way the College Football Playoff Committee currently operates that our fans and listeners might not know or fully understand?
Well, I think it's simply that they have protocol. I mean, look, the reality is it is a subjective, ambiguous system, and I do believe that the less people can see, the more mistrust there is about it. But at the end of the day, there are written rules that they're supposed to follow. They're not weighted. So if you care a lot about head-to-head results, a la Notre Dame and Miami, the person next to you might care more about a particular statistic or a particular loss that happened. Everybody in that room evaluates those things differently, but they are all required to look down at that sheet. And I'm not sure people know how secretive it really is. If we are all sitting next to each other around that table, there's privacy screens. You cannot see how I'm voting. I can't see how you're voting.
It's like a third-grade state test almost.
That's exactly right. I mean, the only people who know what the scoring is, and it disappears quickly, are at the head of the table, and that's Rich Clark and maybe one or two people sitting next to him. I think it might only be one person. So when Reese Davis on Tuesday night asks the committee chair, which was Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas AD this year, how close was the vote? He literally doesn't know if it was, 1 point better or 7 points better. That's why it's really tricky to be in that position to try to answer that question. And it is actually done by cross-country scoring, if anyone knows what that is.
Well, we got Rich Clark coming on our show a week from today, so we may get a little bit more information out of him. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Heather, the CFP championship game is set through the end of the decade, and obviously by the 2029, we'll be 16 years into the CFP. The South will have held 11 championship games, the West 4, the Midwest just 1. Do you know if cities like Nashville, Memphis, Jacksonville, Washington, D.C., et cetera, that already have or are in the process of constructing dome stadiums have expressed interest in hosting? And is there an effort to spread it around the country? I'm talking about the championship game.
Right. I can't answer the question as to if some cities like D.C., et cetera, have expressed interest, but I do think that there is an interest from the CFP and spreading it around to a certain extent. And I think we've seen that in the past from Indianapolis, Santa Clara, South Florida, Dallas, et cetera. So, and New Orleans is coming up, Las Vegas. So I do think that there is a desire to spread it around. And I also think that we'll see coming up less of a commitment to the old standing partnerships with the bowls and geographic location, and more of an effort to get these teams to where their fans can more easily get to.
Once again, you're listening to The Drive on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, and we're currently on the phone line with Heather Dinich, ESPN senior writer and college football insider, the queen of college football. Heather, one thing that I do want to ask you, I've got a couple questions in it. I'm going to let you get back with Jim here. First thing is, who is your favorite team or coach to cover when you have the opportunity to be out of the studio and out on the sidelines and on campus?
I truthfully don't have a favorite team. I can't have one because I'm an unbiased reporter, and I will tell you that my standard line used to be, I'm the most unbiased reporter we have, because I went to Indiana University and they had the worst.
Can't say that no more.
Ever.
Can't say that no more.
I know. I'm having a hard time selling it for some reason these days, But, truly, I think some of the best coaches that I've had an opportunity to work with are just the most candid. And the ones that I can give as examples are the ones that are, probably like the Mac Browns of the world who aren't coaching anymore. But I mean, you get certain coaches like Marcus Freeman, who's a young rising coach who will sit there in his office with you and just talk genuinely about what's going on with his program. He has like 6 kids. He's just a super nice guy. I love talking to Coach Drink at Mizzou because he's just candid and honest, and he's funny, and he always has a good perspective about what's going on. There are so many, but I love talking to Coach Saban, even though he's not coaching anymore, because I'll find myself sitting next to him in the green room or at some of these events that we're at together, and he'll start just picking at me about the selection committee, and I'll turn to him and I'll be like, Coach, I'm not on the committee. And
you don't get to say so.
And he just looks at me and he'll be like, aren't you glad you sat down next to me to eat your lunch?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe whenever you made your way down to LSU, if they rolled out the red carpet and got some gumbo and some Bayou Gulf shrimp and stuff ready for you.
No. I truly, there's really not a favorite. I think there's just favorite moments and favorite conversations with some of these guys throughout my career.
I got you. No, that's a great answer. So last thing, since I'm throwing out rumors on this show, there's a rumor that you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, though.
Oh, I can confirm that wholeheartedly.
So how do you feel about the hire of Coach Mike McCarthy? I personally was a big fan of it.
Yeah, see, my honest answer to that is I'm okay with it. I'm slightly indifferent because when Tomlin left, I have zero problems with Tomlin. I didn't have an answer for it. Like, if you crowned me the queen of the NFL and said, who do you want anyone in the whole world to be head coach of the Steelers, I was like, I don't know the answer to that. So it's not like I had somebody in mind. I love that he's a Pittsburgh guy. I like that he gets it. My question is, how long is he going to last there? And if the Steelers have a losing season this year, my soul will be crushed. And I was watching the Super Bowl. I said to my husband, I said, you can't tell me that the Steelers' offensive line would have at least put together a better effort than the Patriots.
Absolutely. There's no question in my mind. And by the way, Heather, you can't be the queen of the NFL if you're the queen of college football. Okay.
It's true. I know.
Okay.
There's too much work involved. I'm not getting paid enough for that.
Let me ask you this one, and I don't know the answer. It seems like a lot of the fans are in favor of more on-campus games instead of the traditional bowl sites. Dan Lanning even made the statement that Oregon should have been playing Texas Tech in Lubbock instead of in the Orange Bowl. Now, here's the thing. We're talking about schools in the NCAA Division I football bowl subdivision wanting to play fewer games at bowl sites. Are we heading in that direction, Heather?
If the college football playoff expands to, let's say, 24 teams, then I think it's inevitable that happens. But I do know that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and several of the other commissioners in the room, they still feel a strong commitment and bond and responsibility to the bowl system, particularly the New Year's Six bowls. I mean, but the whole thing has had a trickle-down effect on the rest of the bowl system at large. I mean, we've seen a couple bowls this offseason fold, including Detroit. I think, I want to say 29 years. It's going to be the first time that the city hasn't had a bowl game. So I do think that if the field gets exponentially larger, then yes. But right now, I say no, as long as it stays at 12. Because of that strong commitment to those big bowls and the historical.
So the quarterfinals and semifinals are going to stay at bowl sites for the immediate
right
down the road. All right, last question for you, Heather. This is your personal opinion now, okay? Your gut feeling. How many teams will be in the CFP field in 5 years, and how many teams will be in the CFP field in 10 years?
Oh, wow. Geez. In 5 years, I would be surprised if it wasn't 16. I think people are still reluctant to go bigger than that, especially that quickly, and knowing that there has to be some changes with the calendar first. I think there are a lot of things that are really messy. In 10 years, it wouldn't surprise me to see 24. Not at all.
Yep.
Because you've got to let these not that you can't break the contracts with conference championship games, but I think the SEC, which carries a lot of weight in the room, is probably among the most reluctant to do that right now.
Heather, how can our listeners follow you?
I'm on Instagram at CFB Heather, like college football Heather, and on X as well there, and TikTok. Just recently.
Absolutely. Heather, we have really enjoyed having you on as a guest, and we hope we can do this again sometime soon.
You bet, my friends. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Heather.